So this is my video that moves on from what I've just said about what I've done in my room and how Arc Studio has helped a lot with it. For about the last month, I've been playing around with Arc Studio. I've got my room to a point where I really like it. Sounds pretty good. The space is really good. I've got all the kit I think I need. I've set up the kit in the way I think it needs to be done. And Arc Studio is just my last step or stage of that. So I've been playing with Arc Studio, learning about how to take the readings, then how to edit it, been going through some of the presets to see which one I like and how the sound changes, depending on is it warm, is it bright, is it flat, do I like some of the other stuff, can I use a preset and then I adjust it? So I've got to quite a good point. What I would say, what my positives and the things I've really learned are, once you get used to the software's great. It's a little bit weird at the start because you don't get any instructions. So you're learning how to take a reading, have I done it right, what's going on with this, how do I load it, all these things jumping around. But once you get used to it, it's actually really simple. There's only 3 or 4 steps and it's quite easy. And actually taking a reading, when you go on, it tells you, oh yeah, it's going to take 28 minutes. And then actually, once you get good at taking a reading, it probably takes 10 or 12 to do a 21-point reading. Really straightforward. You just use your room. I've been doing mine in home theatre mode. So when I go home theatre mode, I can literally just use my mic stand. I can go down the middle, put one in front and then go one behind. And that's my 7 points. And then I just go 7 points down the way and then 7 points 6 inches above. Super quick, super easy. Yeah, so you can see I've started playing around with what I do. I think ultimately for me, the way I like the sound, the flat preset has been the best option. It's been really good. It sounds the best. And when I start playing music back, it sounds the best as well. As soon as I go warm, then it doesn't balance quite right. It's not that the bass isn't the way I want, or it just isn't quite right. So I like it flat and sharp, which is, it's interesting. We'll see as we go on with the room. What I found, the box is great. The hardware is really well made. All the cables come with it, apart from you need XLRs obviously to put it in line, which is good. Generally, what I've found, okay, I'll talk about the positives and then I'll tell you the 2 things that I've found really not frustrating, but a bit strange. The positives, the signal and the output after I use Arc Studio is noticeably better. With the home theatre reading, I went from having a setup where the sound was quite nice, it sounded good, really musical, really detailed. After I did my reading, it was like somebody had taken the sound stage and the sound and decided where everything had to be. So the vocal was like way, way clearer and way, way more out front than the rest of the mix. Then everything else was there. So instead of it being like 1 or 2 other instruments and then maybe a little bit of something else, when you had tunes that had multiple instruments, all the multiple instruments are there and they all feel like they're in the right place because it's been, however you want to say it, has it been EQ'd, it has been filtered, it has been reorganized, but it sounded great. And then the other thing is, it does really well in sorting your bass, because I'm having problems with bass because I've got a long, straight, thin room. So with the home theatre 21-point advanced reading, Arc Studio did really well on bass. It took my bass from being quite one-notey, even though it sounded good, it was quite one-notey, to once I got the position of my sub right and I got the level of my sub right, it changed it to a point where now when you listen to it, it can have a kick drum, it can have a bass player, somebody playing different notes, and it plays all those notes. It doesn't just play a big wall of bomb, 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 bomb. it plays everything. It plays up and down, and it plays all those different bits. So now it starts to sound like a proper band. Or you might go to a tune that's got loads of kick drum, that's really kick drum, and not much bass guitar, and then it sounds great in that because it's different again. I've got 3 or 4 tunes that I listen to a lot that have specific instruments, so that I know, is it sounding the way I want it, or is it not sounding right, or has it changed? And when you listen to songs that you've listened to in the last 6 months, like, I hate to think how many times, you can tell what the Arc Studio and all these little changes that we're making are making, and it's definitely been a real positive. Yeah, it's been amazing. I sorted out the sound in my room, basically. It's really straightforward. It's done exactly what I wanted. It's made everything super clear. It's sorted my bass. And now I've got to the point where I'm realizing that the problem in my room is more that I've got this big amp rack in front of my room, in front of all my kit. And I'm not sure, maybe part of it is that I've got a table, but I don't think that's the big issue at the moment. That might be the next thing. If I can't get the sound to be the way I want it, I might have to move that as well. But at the moment, I'm not going to do that. Okay, the 2 issues I had with Arc Studio. I'm trying to think which way around I should do these. Okay, first, when I use Arc Studio on my laptop, what I'd hoped to do was hook it all up, right? So you take the USB out the laptop and into your sound card mixer, whatever you want to call it, right? And then you have the USB that's provided by the Arc Studio into your other USB, and you go and select it, and you take a reading, and then you go to play and you go, oh, wait a second. Arc Studio is on a different channel because there's no way to hook my sound card, the output of my sound card, into my DAC and have my DAC play into my amp, which means I could keep my preamp on the same channel. What you have to do is you have to plug your sound card into an other channel on your preamp, which misses out your DAC. So it's doing the job of the DAC, and it won't let you go on here and select the input as your microphone and your output as your DAC. It's one or the other, which is really annoying, because what it's doing is it's not taking a reading including my DAC, it's only taking a reading with my sound card straight into my preamp. So it is reading the room, but what happens if my DAC is having a huge influence on the sound? It's not. Luckily, my DAC is a kind of very precise kind of linear DAC. But if you were using a tube DAC or an R2R DAC or something that's got a lot of effect on the sound, in theory, you're taking a room reading without a piece of the kit in the line. So then what you have to do is you can play the sound back, but what it's doing is it's playing through the sound card into the channel. You hear the difference. You go, oh yeah, that sounds quite good, but it's not with your full system. So then what you have to do is you have to take the cable out the back of the sound card, plug it back into your DAC, or if you've got a different one, then change the channel on your preamp back to the channel you're meant to have it on for your DAC, and then you play the sound and you go, oh yeah, I've loaded the filter or the preset into the Arc card, and now it sounds the way I want it to sound because it's going through my whole system. But you didn't ever take the reading with the DAC in line. What you did was you took the DAC out and you put a sound card in its place. So the best situation would be if you could have them both plugged in at the same time, and on the software you could select the input as the sound card and the output as your DAC. That's just my preference. I'm sure all the guys out there in studios would have, because you guys plug in your sound card as your, whatever your input is, your input and your output, and from that you would have your monitors plugged in. That doesn't make a difference. But when you go to home theatre, and if you're going, especially with a 2.1 system or a whatever, if you're using a DAC or something that has a DAC, you then can't plug it in as the output, and you're not reading the DAC as part of the signal. That's something that frustrated me, because what I was hoping was just to leave everything plugged in and just to jump between input, output, change the preset, input, output, play it. Yep, I like that. No, change it, do that, do it. Right, I'm ready. Okay, unplug the box, keep it in line, switch it on, play it, done. But it didn't let me do that. So that's my first thing that annoyed me, and probably my main thing. But I don't think it's something that would stop me using it. I think for the money and the way I do it, what it's doing is it's still taking a room reading. It's just a little bit frustrating that you can't plug all your kit in at once, and you can't plug your DAC in as the output. You can select the DAC as your output on the software, but it's only when you unplug the sound card. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe what to do is say in the comments and I'll let you know. Then the second thing and the other thing is, and I've been having a discussion over the last maybe 3 days with my guy that gives me advice. If when you go to have a reading and this line, so mine's not bad, it's not great, and I'm gonna put some more work in to do this. If your blue line, so if you've got your 0 line across the middle, for me, oh, my computer's gone off. For me, from about 220 hertz, after that tiny little dip, about 220, mine's pretty good. It's got a little bump, but it's pretty good, and then it rolls off like most people's does. But below 220, mine's quite a lot above the line in terms of bass and things moving around. I've got a big set of bookshelves, so they do a decent amount of signal below 200 or 220, and then I've got a sub, and it's all in a small room. So that's why I've got a lot going on. But, and this is my problem, I've done with my setup that I have at the moment, I've done 3 sets of 21 readings, right? The accurate level. Anytime the signal is a lot more, like if I set the signal to the way I like it to sound, and I have more bass in the room than this style of reading, so the more and more that blue line is above 0, when I go to correct it, it corrects it no problem. It does exactly like this. But when I play it, it's not as musical, and to me, it doesn't have the same content. So I'm wondering, how does it bring that line down? If you have a signal that's a large amount away from that 0 line, and you're telling it, I want to have a flat signal, what does it do with the signal to pull it back down? And what does it do if a lot of that signal is system and not just room? So we're assuming that, oh yeah, it's room correction. But what happens if your sub is turned up too much? And actually it's pulling the sub signal down and some of the content down. How's it doing that? I don't know how it does it exactly, but I know that when I've done it the first 2 times and my bass had little peaks that were like quite aggressive, the more it was out of this screen and I hadn't pulled the sub down and down and down, when I took a 21 point reading and the peaks were there, and then I used arc and it pulled it down to this line, or very close to this line, when I played it as the full system, as the natural system, it didn't sound as good. The sub didn't have as many notes and there wasn't as much content there. So I'm wondering, how does it, what algorithm, what formula, what software programming does it use to pull that line down to bring it back down here? Because if it's not room correction and it's actual system content, is it compressing your actual room content down to that line? Or am I talking rubbish and I've missed something? And what it's doing is it's doing something else. But I definitely, from listening, feel like when I had a lot of content way above, I had 3 or 4 peaks that were way above where this one is. When I ran the filter and it flattened it out like it has, it didn't sound as good running it with that preset. So it must do something to pull it down and compress that signal enough to get it down to 0. My next try, I've done it twice and it's got better and better. My next try is I'm going to turn my sub way, way down. So it's really close as I can get it to that line. Maybe even a couple of little bits below that line, and most of it's still just above. And then I'll run the flat filter, and then I'm going to see the ultimate result of, does it sound even more musical? Because if that's the case, then you know that what it's actually doing is it's crunching that signal, that even some of it is system noise and not all room noise. Some of it is just what my speakers and my sub are playing, and they're just turned up way more than the rest of the signal. Maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe there's something in my head that I haven't worked out. But I think that is something that I've got to look at. But what it does from 220 upwards is amazing. It's like a black art. The way it sorts out the soundstage and the clarity in the instruments is unbelievable. And this has got better. Every attempt I've done as I've pulled the signal down, it's got better and better and better. But it's still a bit of a weird one that it crunches it and it kills some of the notes and it kills some of the instruments. But I'm going to have another go. Once I've had another go, I'll come back. But don't get me wrong, that's a terrible explanation of something that I'm really happy with. Arc Studio's been amazing. arcx and using the microphone and the steps. And once you get into it, the difference is unbelievable in my room. And I would say anyone who's got a home theatre room that's very DIY and is trying to push it, but on a budget, Arc Studio is a brilliant way to go. It's a really good option for people who are trying to get that last 10, 15, 20%, because the difference is huge. When you switch that filter off and you switch it back on, it's amazing, the difference. Okay, hope that was interesting. If you've got any more knowledge about what I've talked about, it'd be great if you'd comment and let me know. If you don't agree, comment and let me know. And I'll have another go once I've moved my room around, and I'll pull that line down to see if it makes more difference again. Right, thanks. See you later.